Guys, it's a story that's all too familiar these days. Trae Young absolutely went off in game one. Hawks got the W, took an early lead in the series. Now, despite that, they're still 8-point underdogs in game two. So, Kenny, can Young and the Hawks do it again, or do the Bucks figure out how to contain Trae Young, who accounted for over 50% of the Hawks' offensive output?
I mean, why not? Why not? Yeah, I think they can. I mean, look, I'm so out on the Bucks right now. I'm so annoyed. I can't watch the Bucks anymore. Like, how can you watch the Bucks and just like have a good time? Mike Budenholzer ruins it. Look, this defense has been good all postseason long. Besides like one incredible scoring explosion from the Brooklyn Nets, this team's defensive rating has stabilized. It's been very, very good. It was good again in game one. The problem is they don't know how to score the basketball. They have such an unimaginative offense. They have three plays. They have a pick and roll with Giannis where they throw the alley-oop, and they did it like 5 times down the stretch. And then they'll have the Giannis isolation where Giannis does the Giannis play, hits a spin move and an one layup. And then Chris Middleton will bring the ball up and then just like stop, turn around and try to hit a fadeaway jumper. Like, that's their whole offense. And when Chris Middleton inevitably misses some of those shots, when Giannis gets double teamed, there's no sort of semblance of another plan here for this team. And they just have, it's been like 15 games or whatever this postseason, and it hasn't mattered. Like, maybe it's like 12. They just continue to do the same thing. And why are we going to expect all of a sudden the Bucks to adjust here to what the Hawks are doing? Look, I just think that the Hawks have done enough on the offensive end that they don't even really need to do anything differently. The Bucks are just going to shoot themselves in the foot again here. And yeah, I think that the Hawks cover this spread.
All right, what are you thinking here, Jules?
Yeah, 8's a lot. And just as a basketball fan, I mean, the Hawks are the much easier team to, number one, root for, number two, to back based on just, like Kenny said, the Bucks aren't doing anything right. The Hawks are, making adjustments, playing the right way on both ends of the floor, doing all the right things. Now, we'll probably get some Trae Young regression just naturally, even if the Bucks don't adjust. I don't know if he can necessarily play quite that well again. That was kind of maxing out. And Chris Middleton probably is due to hit some more shots, but Drew Holiday also went off, and that could level off a little bit. Like, it just kind of feels like too many points for a Hawks team that we just keep overlooking. Like, the Hawks have my brain in a pretzel at this point. I've gone against them plenty. I don't know. Are they this good, or are they just benefiting from going against all-time poor coaching? The Doc Rivers collapses, the Milwaukee collapses. Like, it's probably a little bit of both. You got to give him credit for taking advantage of the poor coaching and going out there and being able to do it. But like, it just makes it difficult. Honestly, the one thing that I do trust, the Bucks do come out of the gates hot, generally at home, coming off a loss. Like, I'm probably going to bet Milwaukee -3 on the first quarter line and say that they're going to come out, with some juice in this game. And if they wind up covering that, you can probably get Atlanta now with double digits, like +10 or so after the first quarter, which I'm fine with. They always come back.
All right. Well, game one hit 229 points. The total for game two was set at 225.5. I mean, Jules, Drew Holiday's 33 points in game one. Those were by far the most of his playoffs. He hadn't eclipsed 21 points this postseason. Before that, John Collins also tied his playoff high with 23 points in game one. We're saying we could see more defense in store. So what do you think? Is this going over or under?
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, Nick and I did the segment for game one, and we both went under. Didn't quite get it. I'll go under again. I think the only person that really has room for improvement offensively was Middleton, who had the bad game one. Everybody else was pretty good and has room to, shoot a little worse. Both teams are going to make some defensive adjustments. We saw game one of Clippers and Suns go way over, and then game two turned into a grind after they had seen each other in that first game. A lot less shot making. One thing that I will say, if you haven't watched or listened to this week's Unreasonable Odds podcast with Joe Osborne from Oddshark, you should certainly go ahead and do that. Steve Buchanan was there too, but he doesn't know anything about the NBA. Joe told us that these two teams in the playoffs have combined to go under the first half total in 20 of 25 combined games. So first half unders hitting at an 80% clip for these two teams combined in the postseason. So maybe you want to check out that first half total.
All right, Kenny, what are you doing here?
Yeah, unlike yesterday with the Suns, Julian is right. Look, I think that you look at the pace in this series, this pace, the 102 in game one, that was so uncharacteristic for the Bucks and the Hawks this postseason. Now, look, the Bucks, it was weird. They were like number one in pace or top three in pace all season long. And this postseason, they've really kind of slowed things down, starting with that Brooklyn Nets series where they couldn't control the pace. It does seem like the Hawks here are at least slowing them down just a little bit. And when you talk about good defense on both sides of the coin here, the Bucks have played good defense all postseason. The Hawks technically have. I don't know, again, if it, like Julian said, I don't know if it's a product of just three really bad offenses in a row, but making this defense look good. But they've certainly held their opponents at bay. And then, yeah, you look at the factor with Middleton not playing well. Like, I mean, even if he magically snaps out of his slump here, like, do we trust Drew Holiday to keep it up? I just think so much can go wrong here to lead us to the under, and I just think this is a game that might be close again, and a game that the Bucks aren't like racing back to come back, or the Hawks. I think it's just going to be one of those sort of like Game 7 of Hawks Sixers, where it's just a close game throughout, and we get a lot of half court sets. And again, I'm always a big fan of fading the Bucks offense, and that is exactly what you do here with the total. Like, even if they cover whatever, I don't think they're going to go for 120 points. It just doesn't seem like it's in the cards. So I like the under.
All right. Well, first half total, by the way, is 113.5 for the record. All right, guys. We mentioned Trae Young and his 48 points earlier. He also had 7 rebounds and 11 assists. Now, his player prop for total points, rebounds, assists for game 2 is 44.5. Kenny, it's a lot of points. Can he go over that number again?
I do think so. I do. I mean, look, I don't think he's going to score a lot of points, but when you look at, even if he just got you those same 7 rebounds and 11 assists, you're only looking at like a modest scoring night for Trae Young. Now, the only scary thing here is that it seems like he's hampered by a little bit of a shoulder injury. He's not really shooting the ball that well. He really hasn't shot the ball well all postseason long. But then again, I mean, you could point to that and say, well, he's due for a good shooting night, and he's a good shooter, and he's not going to keep shooting this poorly. The bottom line with Trae Young is that he gets all the usage. Nate McMillan seems to have wised up to earlier in the postseason when he was benching Trae Young for like long parts of the second half. He seems like Trae Young's going to play a lot now. And as long as that's the case, I think he should hit this pretty comfortably. He's the whole offense, and he's been a great distributor. And again, the Hawks really haven't had that good shooting night either. I mean, the Hawks can shoot the three pretty well. They've been kind of cold lately. They've still managed to win games. So I think that good shooting night's around the corner. We've seen it. We saw it in Philly. They had a couple amazing halves. Saw it in that New York series. They had a couple amazing halves. I think they could have an amazing half here. And with that, Trae Young could rack up some assists.
All right, Jules, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, the Bucks should be like the perfect team to slow Trae Young. They have Drew Holiday, who's the perfect point guard matchup, like an all-defensive team type of guy. They have Middleton, who has some length to go on him. He spent a lot of time on Kevin Durant in the last series. They have PJ Tucker, a bigger grinder type of guy that spent a lot of time on Kevin Durant in the last series. And if need be, they have Giannis, who has like a foot on Trae Young to get that length on him. Like, it's inexcusable what they let him do in game 1. So I'm tempted to go under here and say that the Bucks will figure it out. But like Kenny said, and like we've all seen, they just don't make adjustments in any of these games anyway. Coach Bud is if we're doing coaching power rankings left in the playoffs, there's the 3 guys up there, and then there's just an enormous gap of garbage, and then there's Coach Bud. So I don't know if I want to put any trust in it. Rather than maybe back it that way, I don't see game leading scorer up on DK Sportsbook yet, but taking Trae Young to just lead the game in scoring would be appealing to me. You can get him at plus 150 just in a player matchup to outscore Giannis, which is pretty attractive. So I'd imagine getting Middleton and Holiday in the mix, like games leading scorer, would also be somewhere around plus 200.
All right, well, let's talk about Drew Holiday. He had a big night for the Bucks in that game 1 loss, 33 points, 10 assists. Now his assist prop for game 2 is 7.5. So Jules, we know Chris Middleton is struggling. So does Holiday keep it up and get there?
Yeah, he's been getting there, recently, at least in the back end of that Nets series in game 1. So he had 10 assists in game 1. If you go those last few games of the Nets series, 8, 5, 8, 9. Now, prior to that, he hadn't really been racking up the assists since the Miami series. I just don't see an edge here. It's set about 1.2 assists higher than his season average. So, the numbers tell you to go under. I think that he should get enough run and, enough looks. That alley-oop played Giannis that Kenny was talking about worked very well, and that comes from Holiday. So if you can get 3 or 4 right there on alley-oops to Giannis, I'll be a coward and just say this is a stay away spot. Maybe Kenny has something for you, but the numbers tell you to play the under. I'll say it that way.
Kenny, are you a coward?
I am. I mean, like I think I get into this over. Look, he's had it in the last 2 games. You look at last game, he had 10 assists, and the Bucks shot 22% from 3. I just feel like he is playing that role of distributor, and he also has just looked so much better over the last 2 games than he did at the beginning of that Brooklyn series. And when you talk about the Bucks, I mean, they are a team that shoots the 3 well. They are at home, where teams generally shoot well. So I mean, it's not unrealistic to think that the Buccaneers will shoot better from 3. And with that, Jrue Holiday could certainly get some more assists here. Again, I just think that there actually is some upward mobility in the assist column for him. And as we've talked about, the pick and roll with Giannis has really worked out well for them. Like, it is one of their 3 plays. I do feel like that is worth taking a shot at, just because he's going to play massive minutes here to ask to guard Trae Young.